Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome to my pretty much spoiler thoughts about the Thunderbolts. Non-spoiler, I really enjoyed this movie. This is probably my favorite in terms of like sequence, favorite movie I've seen since Wakanda Forever. It's unexpectedly emotional. It's funny, and I feel like for some people that is a feat for Marvel. I feel like Marvel gets its jokes off here and there, but I feel like this movie is pretty good. And what else can I say about it? Yeah, I really like seeing this band of characters, and I'm curious as to what they will get up to next. So I recommend checking it out. Getting into some of my spoiler thoughts. I'm like, I don't know how long this is gonna be. I haven't done a movie review or like a Marvel movie review solo in a very, very long time. But this is the first one in a while where I'm like, you know what? I wanna put something out there. Speak on this a little bit. Um yeah, so spoilers, audience members be warned. Here we go. I really like Yelena in this. And I feel like every project we've seen Yelena in um since Black Widow, she's like just shine. She's always been fun. She's been funny. She's been literally what Alexi said in this movie, like a light. She brings like light into the rooms that she enters, and she does her best. And it's interesting because kind of contrasting with like for most of this movie, she is grieving the death of Natasha, which is crazy that how many years ago did that Black Widow movie came out, and now we're finally getting to like the aftermath where Yelena is mourning Natasha's death. But Yelena kind of like lost that spark, or maybe she's discovering that maybe she didn't really have the spark or hasn't had it for quite some time, especially now that Natasha's death is weighing on her. So she's just having a rough go at it, and she's asking herself like, what is the point of all this? Like, why are we doing what we're doing? I have like a lot of regrets. I've heard a lot of people like all of those kinds of things. And I think one of my favorite moments of the movie was like her talking to Alexei, her dad, who's the was it Red Soldier? I can never remember. But y'all know what I'm talking about. Red Captain America from Russia. Russian Captain America. I guess Captain Russia. um she's talking to him about all this and like grieving Natasha's death and asking like why he wasn't there for her like when it happened, since apparently like he was MIA for about a year. We get to see them reconnect like a year after Natasha's death, and he was saying like he didn't think that she wanted him around, which is kind of sad. And we don't really get to unpack that too much. You could kind of guess because like even throughout this whole movie, she shows that she's embarrassed by him, and he is kind of doing some stuff where I'll be like, hey, chill out. But I like that after like she gets through like her emotions and just saying like things just don't feel like they're clicking right now, Dad. Like I don't know what to do. He talks to her and says like, like you always bring a light into like the rooms that you enter, and like you are like a kind, sweet girl, and you can be that person again. You just have to, kind of find yourself basically. It was a much better speech than what I summarized it to be, but I really liked it. Like that was really impactful. It was like right after that, and we felt like they were getting closer together. Helena gets freaking. It felt like a blip. She just vanished. There was like a black, like ashy impression, I guess, of where she was left after like centuries zapped a whole bunch of people, including Elena. And seeing like the pain in Alexi's face, like David Harbour acted his ass off right there, and like I felt that. I was like, my eyes are starting to burn. I'm like, oh my god, like not like this. Not after we just had a good emotional moment. And there were a ton of like really great emotional moments where we're kind of like unpacking grief, unpacking like trauma, unpacking loneliness. Which if you're paying attention to like the internet, like that's just a lot of trending topics that people seem to want to talk about all the time. Everybody feels it at some point. So, yeah, I feel like I don't know. It hit right here. It hit right there. I enjoyed the action. I enjoyed getting to see Bucky back in action as well, and him kind of, last time we saw him in action, it was with Sam. There's like Falcon and Winter Soldier, and then Sam became the Captain America. Bucky briefly became a Congress member. We don't know if, I assume he's not a Congress member anymore. So very short-lived political career, like Val was kind of hinting towards. Um, but it was cool to see him again. I'm really curious about Sentry and I guess how we move forward with him in the future, considering. So I guess there's like, I don't even know if it's like the positive side of Sentry. It just felt like he was really cocky when he had on like the gold suit and the blonde hair, which I kind of hated the blonde hair. I'm glad we ditched that at the end. It felt like he was very, very cocky. And then when he got humbled, he immediately became Void. I don't know if you call that version of him Sentry as well, or if that's called Void, or they didn't really give it another name. I'm going to refer to it as Void, or he just starts sucking people up and like putting them through their traumas over and over again. Yeah, I feel, because I don't know a lot about Sentry, but I know he's like supposed to be powerful. I've never heard of this like Void half of him, so I'm curious how that's gonna work out with the rest of the MCU. Val did say, and I don't know if she's right because she be talking a lot, but Val said that Sentry is more powerful than the original team of Avengers all put together. So he could definitely, like, if Thanos came back around, as long as Sentry isn't having a bad day, I feel like he could probably easily take care of the threat. So, we got Avengers Doomsday coming up. That's like the next big Avengers event film, which who knows who the Avengers are going to be, how many Avengers, is it going to be a clash of Avengers, who knows what's that about. But I'm curious if he's going to be able to play a part in that, or if he's just been resigned to Bob from now on. I'm like, somebody's got to be able to like get him trained, like help him get mentally right to like participate in the fight. And he's shown that he wants to be in the fight, so I feel like that's got to happen at some point. We did get a little nod at Fantastic Four at the end, which was funny because as I was watching the credits, because my friend Trayvon, shout out to Nerd with the Tech, he was saying stay till the very end for like all of the post credit scenes. And while I was watching the credits, I saw that the Fantastic Four theme was listed as one of the musical pieces of the film, and I was like, I don't remember that playing. I'm like, did I miss something? And then right as we got to the end, we see it was, I think, like 14 months later, I think it said, where the new Avengers are together and they're talking about how Sam Wilson, our new Captain America, is trying to gather a group that they're going to call the Avengers of heroes. So then it's like, are we going to have a little Civil War moment? I hopefully not just over the name. Hopefully, like, I guess everybody come together. I don't know. As they're discussing that, they talk about like the space threat that nobody seems to want to talk about or like brief them on. So they start doing a little research, kind of find out like the Fantastic Four's ship is about to crash into Earth, which from what I personally know about Fantastic Four, it's supposed to take place in a different time. I don't know if that's necessarily like a multiverse thing or if, yeah, I have no idea how that works, but I guess they, at some point at the end of the movie, get back in a ship and then crash into the current timeline of the MCU, or at least present day. I don't know how any of that's gonna work. I would say for things that I wanted to see more of, or people in particular, somebody that I wanted to see more of was Taskmaster. And it's not even like I'm a huge Taskmaster fan or anything, but I've heard that in Black Widow they kind of did the character dirty, and then Taskmaster shows up in this movie, so I'm like, oh, like maybe we'll get to see a little bit more of them. And they immediately get just like shot in the face. I'm like, oh, surely that's not the end of Taskmaster. That we never see or hear from Taskmaster again. So I'm like, dang. And that room got incinerated, so I guess there's got to be a new Taskmaster on the way. I know people didn't like the Taskmaster and Widow specifically, so I'm like, maybe that was that specific one, and maybe we'll get a new one that's more in line with like what everybody wants. I've just found it bizarre that Taskmaster just went in there, got clapped up, and then we just never discussed it again. Um, that was one thing. I do wish we talked a little bit more about Ghost, because they had like the whole group had like a little bit of a banter, and they kind of talked about everybody's traumatic past and kind of do that thing that people do where it's not a competition, but it's like, if it were a competition, I would have the most trauma kind of thing. And we get to have little hints of Ghost here and there. I kind of wish we had heard more. I'm trying to think, was Ghost introduced in Ant-Man? I can't remember which movie. I know Ghost was present in something, and maybe that's why they didn't dig into the backstory. Maybe I got to do more research on my part. But it felt like everybody had like their moment where they got to explore their backstory, except for Ghost. Like Yelena got touched by a Sentry, and that like sent her like back into the past with like the trauma of her first test in the Red Room. John Walker got touched. He got sent back to, well, not too far in the past where he's just being a bad husband and father. And Bucky got touched, but he's like, we know Bucky's past, so I can see why they didn't feel the need to show that on screen. So I was like, Ghost was the only one, at least that we're aware of, maybe she decided not to say, that didn't get touched and kind of like sent back to her like traumatic past or whatever it might be. So yeah, I feel like they definitely could have developed Taskmaster a little bit more, or at least give me a little bit more to chew on, and definitely could have developed Ghost a little bit more. The outside of that, I really enjoyed the group dynamic a lot more than I thought I would. I feel like the marketing has really done a great job for this movie as well. They really leaned into like the comedic aspect, having like the team on a Wheaties box kind of thing, and all things I wasn't necessarily like, oh, like I really want to see that in this game or whatever, but I was surprised that I was like really into it. And I actually just listened to someone talk about this movie and said like, they're kind of doing the Suicide Squad thing, but it actually worked. And I was like, yeah, I do kind of feel like that, because both the Suicide Squad movies, I do like the most recent one, but it's okay. It's okay. Whereas Thunderbolts, I feel like they nailed it. Like out of all the similar types of movies, this one was the most successful for me for sure. But yeah, I think I've pretty much exhausted all of my immediate thoughts about the Thunderbolts. But what did you guys think about this movie, this Marvel movie? A lot of people are saying that this is like the reawakening or revival of the MCU, which is interesting, because I do feel like, at least for me personally, there was a little bit of a slum where I have watched like every MCU thing that's come out since Endgame. I haven't necessarily been talking about it because I haven't felt like talking about it here, but I've seen everything, and I've enjoyed everything for the most part, to varying degrees. It's just like I could see people's complaints with Endgame was like, we had to build up to that, but I don't think people really think about that. And it was such a high, Infinity War and Endgame. So then to come back down to like really grounded stories, grounded characters, like more singular kind of events. I can see why people are always saying like, "What happened to Marvel?" Blah blah blah. They're not really thinking it through, I would say, but I could see it definitely is. It's not as exciting or as epic as those movies. Um, but I really enjoyed this one. I will say I'm really shocked people are saying that, because I feel like people said they really liked Guardians, they really liked Wakanda Forever, but this is the movie in particular that they're like, oh yes, shining gold star. So that's cool. Whatever, as long as people are supporting the movies and the projects, get more projects done, and like cool, whatever. But definitely let me know what you guys thought in the comments down below. I'm curious to hear if you guys had any more critiques, had any more like things you really enjoyed about it. And until next time, I'll probably be talking about some anime, I'm not gonna lie. But maybe not. Actually, Fantastic Four, I might be talking about that. I feel like I gotta talk about it because that was like probably the first unofficial MCU movie I saw. I don't think the MCU was a thing back then, but I really enjoyed the original Fantastic Four, so I do want to check that out and talk about that. Oh, actually, no. Next thing I want to talk about is Sinners. I still need to go see it though. So until then, hopefully you guys have a nice evening or night. I was enjoy it. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.